Let's get over to Eunice now. I guess, I don't know what to think, Eunice. Let's get more details. The number of confirmed cases now has risen to more than 73,000.
Yeah.
The death toll is higher than 1,800. But for some reason, Eunice, I feel like there was, I don't know, like maybe a degree of positive news that it wasn't much worse than expected over the weekend. Is there any reason to believe that it's slowing and that efforts are bearing fruit?
Well, you're not the only one who noticed, looked at the numbers and thought that way, because the new infections is actually dropping. So today it was under 2,000 and for one day, and for the numbers that we got from yesterday, and that hasn't happened since January 30th. So there is some reason to think that the authorities' clampdown is working, and you would hope that it would work, because effectively right now 760 million people in China are under quarantine or lockdown. And that's just one of the extreme measures. Another extreme measure that the authorities took over the weekend is to quarantine cash as well. So they're now disinfecting it as well as destroying it in some cases. And as you guys were talking about, the impact on business has been quite disruptive. In fact, there was an AmCham survey that came out, over the past couple of days, where they said that 3/4 of the members that they polled didn't have enough staff to run a full production line. And they cited a lack of workers as one of their biggest challenges over the next 2 to 4 weeks. So a lot of problems that they're facing, and they're not the only ones. One of the big corporate events that has now been postponed is the Beijing Auto Show. And also there's been a lot of discussion now about how the National People's Congress, which is a major political event here in Beijing, is also going to be delayed. And Joe, I actually thought of you when I heard this announcement, because the lawmakers are going to be discussing that, whether or not to delay that event next Monday. And they're also going to be discussing whether or not to end the practice of eating exotic animals for good and ending the wildlife trade. So that would be a longer-term decision that could potentially snuff out some of the issues when it comes to having these animals and people all mixed up together in one place, and the viruses that could come from that.
So, Eunice, this is Joanne Lippman. A question on how many people have been kept at home and these factories can't staff up again. Is there any estimate on how long, once the quarantine is over, I mean, we're talking about the factory of the world here in China. How long will it take to get these operations back up and running again?
Well, it's difficult to know. There's no official estimate, but when I speak to suppliers, most of them are planning for the disruption at least till the end of March, sometimes to the end of April. So that's where they're targeting in terms of their time frame. For the quarantines, they're all 14 days. But because it's not 14 days from one specific day, and they're staggered, and they're cities that are, not coordinating, it's created so much disruption as to when and how people are quarantined. In fact, we've been hearing about how, for example, truck drivers between Beijing and Tianjin, the port city, are sleeping on the highway because they don't want to get stuck in quarantine in either city. Or sometimes the cities don't want them in their cities because there's also policies in place to bar outsiders from coming in. So that's all creating a lot of problems. And and we see from the survey and what you guys are discussing about as well, a lot of suppliers just can't find the workers because of these restrictions.
So, okay, we got to go, Eunice, but I'm just wondering, how are you? How are you doing? Do you ever wake up in the middle? I mean, I wake up scared over here. Do you ever, is it really hard? I do. Not just about coronavirus, but about a lot of things. But, I mean, how is it for you now? It must be terrifying, isn't it?
Well, it just kind of comes in waves. Where sometimes you do get nervous because something like the other day, I think I told you, I saw one of our security guards and he was wearing a hazmat suit. And so that really threw me off because I thought things were getting better. Why are these people wearing hazmat suits right now? Right. Also, I got a little bit jarred because they have disinfection stations. And then we were asking what they were spraying, and they're spraying people with bleach. So, of course, that kills off the virus. But I don't really know if that's something that's necessarily healthy for you. Yeah. So there are times when I do get nervous. But for the most part, I think that, I hope it's going to be okay. Yeah, and,
And I know you probably
reporting
hear
the news, right? Reporting the news.
You hear anecdotal stuff that we probably don't hear coming from the affected areas, the Hubei and Wuhan, and I don't know. You need to sift through what's true and what's not, I guess, too, in terms of that, right?
Yeah, that's hard, and it's also emotional because you see so many people in such horrific situations, and you just, I mean, that part is also really, really difficult.